Welcome to the BJ Show. Let's rock and roll. Rock and roll. Come on, everybody. Let's lose control. Brad and John, they're the ones to follow. Yeah, ready for the ride. It's the BJ Show. BJ Show.
It is the BJ Show, and already I've made 3 mistakes, John. Should we just try it again tomorrow, or should we try to muddle through this morning?
As I remind my children all the time, Brad, anytime you make a mistake or your day seems to be off to a bad start, it's an opportunity to make good decisions, stick with your process, and see the day get better.
That's why John has kids who are going to end up ruling the world. One's going to be president of the United States. One's going to be Secretary of State. One's going to be head of the Hedgeye. One is going to take over Vladimir Hedgeye's program. It's going to be...
I just want them to go work at KFUO so they could bully radio station owners.
So they can make my life miserable. By that time, I'll be
exactly.
in the, I'll be in the
how
grave.
I'm grooming them.
That is John Combest, Combest. He's the guy that puts together. Oh, by the way, but right off the get-go, I have to
interrupt yourself, Brad. Please interrupt yourself at the beginning.
You know, I love doing that. John is so complimentary of me. What's interesting about this is we have a new producer, and if you've seen some of our remote broadcast pictures, we'd be out and about among the crowd. Producer Christy is really, she's couple weeks into the show now, and what's interesting is she gives me a synopsis, sort of a breakdown, a written breakdown of each show. She writes this out for me and she makes suggestions. And what's interesting is that she gives me this written as far as you're concerned, and almost all of it's positive, but then she actually does an audio thing for me. She says, "Brad," and I go, "Yes, Christy," and she goes,
"What would you do with a brain if you had one?"
I'm going, man, she's not very complimentary of me. So I'm sorry, John. I had to get that out of the way.
Did you tell her that we don't pay her to speak?
That is John.
Except for in short phrases.
That is John. And matter of fact, she complimented you on how nice you are to women. All the nice things you say about women.
Nice. I guess she should understand that I don't care about her comments at all. And that her feedback has no value to me.
And you never, ever say anything bad about women. You don't make fun of their body sizes, their shapes, all their other kind of things, their hair color. You never make fun of that. Okay. John Combest, Combest.com. And that's his website. He's done this for 23 years. Very important stuff. It's like the Drudge Report for state of Missouri. And he puts usually dozens of things on there, sometimes 40 and 50 different things a day. Not very fancy. It's done in web version. Which version, John?
0.0.
It's not flashy. You go there, you won't see any videos, you won't see any animated GIFs or anything like that. It is just hardcore, down to the bone. You find a story, you click on it, and it takes you there. It's that simple. What we do is we start off the show with this famous guy. We dust him off, pull him out of the ground, and what's your name again, sir?
I'm Casey Kasem.
And what do? We start with?
In third place,
some news from Attorney General Andrew Bailey, brought to us by the Jefferson City News Tribune. Also brought to us by Fox 2 St. Louis. Attorney General Bailey joined 49 other state and territorial attorneys general on calling on Pam Bondi and the DOJ to take immediate and decisive action against the rampant spread of illegal offshore online gambling operations. Brad, this is one of those stories where I think, wasn't the DOJ already doing this? Why does it take 49 attorneys general to call on the DOJ to do this? And perhaps more importantly, Brad, if there are 49 state and territorial attorneys general, does that mean 1 or 2 attorneys general in the United States say, that offshore gambling's not a big deal, let them operate? I guess the point of this, Brad, is that when I first saw the headline, I thought it was just Bailey calling for a crackdown, which would seem to make sense because, we have sports gambling going on beginning December 1st is the launch date here in Missouri. And I thought, hey, this is a good way for AG Bailey to kind of clear the decks, let the gaming industry know, hey, I'm doing what I can to eliminate competition for you guys. But it seems as though this is some sort of a national push, Brad. And by the way, here's some of the actions that these attorneys general recommend taking. They want immediate federal action to seize the domain names under the, quote, Unlawful Internet Gambling Enforcement Act. Apparently, this is somewhat similar to something that happened in 2011 when there were a bunch of counterfeit websites. There was something called Black Friday where the DOJ went through and seized a bunch of illicit websites. So they're also calling on, these attorneys general are also calling on the DOJ to seize assets, servers, and the proceeds associating with illegal gambling sites. Brad, I would think that as illegal gambling spreads throughout the United States, these offshore sites become less relevant. But I guess in states that, that don't have sports gaming or any kind of gaming, I guess you got to just go to your Russian bot or your Polynesian bot and place your bets.
John, we have the smartest listeners, and this guy, as Info Dude, a.k.a. Mike Otten, and he knows which state is the 50th state.
Does he really? What does he say?
He says it's Hawaii because they are already offshore. So
there you go, Info Dude.
Yeah, and he's right.
Now, Mike Otten also knows that you generally just have Tulsi Gabbard on the brain.
That's right, because that's where she's from, Tulsi Gabbard.
And I have done a little bit of artwork with Tulsi Gabbard. Are you aware of this?
Producer Christy doesn't like when we talk about Tulsi Gabbard. She's not a Tulsi Gabbard fan, but go ahead and tell me.
Oh, yeah. Just the other night, I made a map of Hawaii on Tulsi Gabbard's back.
Okay, never mind. Are we ready for number 2?
We sure are, Brad.
Up a notch to number 2.
Brad, you remind us once a week in your asymmetrical warfare talk that most battles are fought over territory. And I'm going to infringe on your territory a little bit, Brad, because I'm going to highlight a story from the Post-Dispatch that is not on johncombest.com today because it doesn't involve state policy or state regulation in the story. But I think it pretty soon could affect those things. And I think our state lawmakers are going to hear about this after this story. Brought to us by Ethan Colbert. You might call him Ethan Colbert of the Post-Dispatch. A new data center planned in St. Charles. Critics raise water, flooding, energy concerns. Brad, did you have this on Brad's top 3 for B-Block today?
I did not. I don't even know about this. Tell me. I'm interested.
Okay, sure. So this story is brought to us from St. Charles. Here's the opening paragraph. A series of farm fields along Highway 370 in the floodplain here could soon be transformed into a sprawling 440-acre data center. That's right, 440 acres. Now, Brad, I'm going to need your help here because I can't visualize exactly where this area is. The developer wants to build the data center in a largely industrial area between Huster Road and Harry S. Truman Boulevard. Am I pronouncing it the right way? Is it Huster or Huster?
Yeah, that's north of 70. What's sort of interesting is when you get off there at Cave Springs, if you make a left, you're on Cave Springs, which doesn't last very long. Then it turns into Mugi, which is confusing. And if you make a right, that's Harry Truman. So that would be between 70 and 370. Okay.
So here's what this says. The developer wants to build it there, and the campus would consist of 5 285,000 square foot warehouses that would be architecturally similar to Amazon's fulfillment center in St. Peter's, according to city documents. Now, there was a St. Charles City Hall meeting on Tuesday night, so 2 nights ago. There were city leaders and residents here. Some of them worry that the data center's high water usage could strain the city's water system, and its power demands could overwhelm the region's electrical grid. And some worry the diesel fuel needed to power the generators could contaminate nearby wetlands, farms, and the city's drinking water. Now, Brad, part of me thinks that this goes back to 2 acronyms that you speak of, which are obviously the NIMBY crowd, the Not in My Backyard crowd, and also one I learned from you, which is CAVE, Citizens Against Virtually Everything. It would seem as though a big block of land out here would be a perfect spot for one of these companies to purchase. But, they quote a farmer in here who says, quote, "Please don't ruin our farm. We are downstream of this. We worry about the people of St. Charles and the drinking water for years to come." So, Brad, it looks like these folks have the money, and I mean, I guess they need to get local buy-in from city elected officials, and they need to get variants and things like that. The name of the developer, by the way, is CRG Cumulus, and they are affiliated with development giant Clayco. They did not speak at the meeting. They declined interview requests, but they are hosting their own town hall next week at the City Foundry Center in St. Charles. And I guess that's where they're going to lay out their plans and actually take questions from residents.
You know, there's already the farmer who's complaining about the drinking water. You know the problem the St. Charles City has had with their drinking water. Do you know about this?
No, tell me about it.
You're not going to like this because of the fact that I believe it involves your friends at Ameren UE. There were some areas down there that had some transformers, and if you know, the old transformers used PCB-based liquids, fluids.
Oh, yeah, I'm a bit of an expert on PCB, Brad. I used to handle that topic for Monsanto.
Right, I bet you did, because Monsanto used to produce PCBs.
We sure did.
Yeah, and some of them leaked into the area down there, and St. Charles City has several wells in that flatland, in that, you know, that lowland area, essentially that floodplain area along 370. And I believe they've shut a couple of them down. So that's why there's very, very worried about that. But, you know, here we go again. The situation with the solar energy and stuff like that, man, I don't know. You know, it's to the point where it's funny you should bring this up, because just last night I was thinking about this because of the fact that I have a small solar installation that does some lighting for me. And I have not maintained it properly. I have to replace the battery. I actually have 2 batteries on. It's not very big, but they're like $200 a piece. And to the point where I'm going like, okay, you know, if I would have just hooked that up to the grid and just, you know, paid for electricity for that through the Quiver River folks, I probably would have not been charged $200 over the past 5 years for the amount of electricity these lights bring, because they're all LED lights. They're very, very low current draw lights. I don't know. I mean, it's maintenance. If you have a system at home, they put it in, but when you put it in, then you got to do maintenance on it. If you have batteries, you have to check the batteries, you have to rotate the batteries, you have to replace the batteries. It's not the panacea that everybody talks about. You know what I'm saying?
I do know what you mean. And, you know, there's been a lot of talk, at least this legislative session, Brad, if you listen to some, for example, other, let's call it right-wing radio, there's a lot of chatter about how data centers are kind of evil. You know, people associate them with big tech, and they associate them with the Bill Gates of the world. And there seem to be a lot of conspiracies about data centers coming to Missouri.
You know, and the problem with this is, and this goes to the situation that we talked about with the Grain Belt Express. Okay, we have an antiquated distribution system, a grid, the power grid that goes all over the United States. You know the way it works. You know, they can switch the power. You know, 1 minute you're using power from Lake of the Ozarks, next minute you're using power from Portage de Sioux, and you don't even know it. But on a national basis, they do that. They swap the power around. And here we've got this company that wants to build a new transmission line system across northern Missouri. And Josh Hawley is against it, and he does the Snoopy dance when they pull $4 billion from him. See, on one hand, it's like, okay, we need to harden the grid, but on the other hand, but not in my backyard, you know what I'm saying? Because the whole deal is the farmers get their panties in a bind because they want to put these transmission towers, which take up maybe 100 square feet in the middle of their fields. Oh, I can't mow, I can't run my tractor around that. John, you know these guys are all using GPS systems anyway. You just program into where the towers are in the GPS system, and your tractor will go right around it. You know what I'm saying?
Producer Christy just texted me based on your last paragraph, and she said, who even wears panties anymore?
Are we ready for number 1?
Give it to me, Brad.
The number 1.
Off and away all day. No, it's just not what producer Christy says about her undergarments. That is the catchphrase of the Parkway School District. Now, Brad, I'm going to put you on the spot. The Parkway School District, you know, I started to say elevated, venerated school district. What would the phrase off and away all day have to do with education in 2025 and 2026?
Is this a phrase they're promoting?
It is a phrase they're promoting, Brad.
Off and away all day. Does that mean that is that the cell phone thing? Is that what this is?
You're exactly right, Brad. Way to go. I have two pieces up today involving the cell phone ban in schools. Now, Brad, you'll recall that the cell phone ban doesn't go into effect right away. Schools still have another year to implement this. But you could think of it as the school districts this is training day. You know what I'm saying? They've got a training year to train kids to not be on their phone all the time. So two pieces that I have up today. One is from the great Mark Zen from Fox 2 St. Louis. Another piece is from KCUR over in Kansas City. I'll start in Kansas City just because I think that's a quick one. Steve Kraske, who does the Up to Date show, interviewed a couple folks, including a teacher. Their concerns about this are that kids sometimes communicate with parents via cell phone during the school day. And at least one teacher is worried that her instruction time could be interrupted by administrators coming in, interrupting the flow of her classroom to share messages with students. In other words, if a student used to text his mom or dad throughout the day, and now the parent has a really important message, that parent has to contact the office. The office has to send someone to the classroom. Miss Teacher Lady has given her lesson, and she's got to be interrupted by an administrator with a message from a parent. Also, the Fox 2 piece, if we move over to that one here in St. Louis, a woman from the Missouri School Boards Association says, quote, there's going to be a learning curve with both parents and students as far as what the rules are, what the exceptions are, and then what the consequences are. So I think it's kind of good, Brad, because the school districts still have a year to kind of work out the kinks of this, so to speak. I'd also point out that Mark Zen acknowledges what a lot of nattering nabobs of negativity have said, which is, oh, what about kids that have medical issues? So some kids that might have some sort of diabetes monitor or some sort of disability need, they're going to be able to use their phone to have, to monitor their medical app. They're going to be able to use their phone in other situations. I thought it was kind of funny, going back to the Kansas City story. One of the teachers suggests that kids will now start asking for a lot of bathroom breaks so they can go to the bathroom and check their phone and text their friends.
John, what year did you graduate from high school?
1996.
Okay, you were on, the cell phone thing hit in St. Louis in the early to mid 80s. By 96, they weren't smartphones, but were there portable phones that kid brought to school?
Absolutely not. I knew no one with a cell phone in 1996.
So this is a problem that has been essentially brought to light by the fact that, and I guess it's interesting to me that you talk about this, and I've heard other people, other radio shows talk about, one of the topics is how old do your kids need to be before you get them a smartphone? And most of them will say like 13, 14, 15, that age and through there. The grade school kids have cell phones?
Oh, yeah, they're absolutely grade school kids with phones, yeah. I would say that most parents today, based on a small sample of folks I know, would say it's usually around 12 where a kid will get a phone.
Interesting. Also, I read an article the other day, which was sort of interesting, that talked about that the resurgence, and we talk about things all the time, that things that go out of style and then they come back in. People are installing landline phones. People that have kids are installing landline phones and taking the phones away from them. And one of the things that they're teaching the kids to do is telephone etiquette. And which I think is sort of interesting because I don't know about you, but my mom and dad taught me when someone calls, and remember you had one phone number, which was, I had a brother and a sister and my mom and dad, so 5 is under our household. And if I answered the phone, I would always say, hello, in a nice voice. My mom would tell me that. And if they say, hi, is your mom around? Yes, hold on just a minute. They're teaching that to kids. Now, why? Where did we go wrong that people don't even understand how to do that? I mean, you know what I'm saying, John?
Yeah, I think it does have to do with the disappearance of the landline because now you always know who's calling. Brad, remember in the 1990s, a company named Colonial Data Technologies essentially popularized caller ID. Before that, when you picked up the phone, you were blind. You had no idea who was going to be on the other end.
Man, you know what? Sometimes I'm a big technology fan, but sometimes technology just gets out of control, And the thing on the cell phones, Like I said, I have friends of mine that are still teaching, even though I'm a 90-year-old guy. I do have some younger friends, and they tell me stories, and I think to myself, well, why don't the school just ban it? But the problem is exactly what you're talking about. Oh, if my little Jimmy stubs his toe and he needs a Band-Aid on it, I want him to be able to call me because I don't want him to go to the nurse. I have to come personally and bandage up his little toe. You know what I'm saying, John?
I do. It's helicopter parents and coddling, Brad. Now, the only thing that I want to know is we're just like 2 minutes away from it's time for Brad's Top 3.
So what do you want to know? Is that...
I want to know, well, I'm just glad that I didn't step on a data center story. I know, Brad, you do a great job of keeping stuff largely with some sort of local tie, and you're a big energy guy, so I'm glad that I didn't step on your coverage.
Do you think I'm going to talk about that?
No, I think you're not going to.
I'm not going to talk about it. Yeah. And you know why, John? You know why?
Why? Because what would you do with a brain if you had one?
No, take your headphones off for a minute, okay?
Okay.
Just want to say, can we all get along? Can we get along?
My goal is to get along with you, John. And, I'm essentially saying, John, whatever it takes to do a good show, that's what we're going to do. How's that?
Every time you play that, Brad, an angel gets its PCP.
And they fly around upside down and backwards. Okay.